One of the most common questions I tend to get is my depression and anxiety genetic? Am I destined to have my depression or anxiety simply because my mother had it or my grandmother or X number of family members had it? So I think there is something very important for us to make sure that we are talking about here in terms of this conversation. The first thing to understand is just because there is a genetic pattern, right? If you can see a pattern of mental illness inside of your family, does not mean that you're destined to have it. Okay, so for example, if there is a pattern of diabetes in your family, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are destined to get diabetes, right? What is more consequential in terms of whether you're going to get diabetes, more than likely, are the daily habits that you have, right? The specific actions you do or do not take that take control of your physical health. You may have a proportion, you may have a higher disposition genetically in order to actually manifest that disease, but whether or not that actually comes to fruition is going to be born out of a few environmental factors, but primarily the decisions that you take in regards to your health. And this is the same in almost every single genetic sort of situation that we see, right? If you look at what the data has said and what the leading science conclusions is, in almost every single genetic situation that we're talking about, whether it's an actual physical situation or a mental health situation, the general consensus is that you may have a higher disposition towards a particular area, but that does not in any way mean that you are destined to go down that area unless you are actually going to bring out that disposition genetically. So we have to make sure that we are very clear on that, because I see people with depression and anxiety write off their ability to make changes simply because of their genetic history. And that is completely false and backward. Okay, that is honestly just not taking responsibility. And by the way, I'm not saying that what you're dealing with is not real. I'm not saying it's fake. I'm not saying you're making it up. I'm not saying just get over it. Okay, but I am saying that you have to take responsibility for what you're dealing with right now, and you have to implement a real approach that is proven to make sure that you get results. You can't just simply throw your hands up in the air and say, oh, well, my mom did this or my grandma did this, and therefore, I'm screwed up for the rest of my life. Okay, I see the same problem happen when people blame their past, their biography, right? Abuses that they went through in the past. But there are plenty of people who went through abuses, very traumatic experiences, and who overcame their mental and emotional challenges. So it's not enough to just simply recuse responsibility and write off your situation and say, well, what do you expect? Look at my mom. Here's who I am, right? That's not who you have to be. The past does not have to equal the future. So make sure that you get very clear on that when you are assessing what your future is going to look like.